Final project demonstration, Alexander Britton, C#. Show you the big code here at the very beginning. So this program is an employee tracking system for checking in and checking out of a workspace. We're going to run this with the debugger, so that way we can see the testing and watch the process performance while we do the different things. So I'm going to bring this up. Here's our employees data. This has all the different employees that I've entered into it. A bunch of them are just random because I've tested this a few times. The activity log, this is the recording of the employee ID and then also the check-in and check-out time. There doesn't have to be a checkout time, it can be null. But here's the employees. If I go, so John Doe is a regular employee, go 100, we go to my reports. This shows the check-in and check-out times for this employee only. Total hours are 28.52. This is just for that employee, for John Doe. If I go check in, I go to my reports, we've got him checked in now. You can see this new check-in time, no checkout time yet. If we go over here to the activity log and update it, we've got a new check-in value down here and no checkout time. So it updates the database actively. If I go to manager view, it says access denied. You do not have the required permissions because John Doe is just a regular employee. Now if we go to a manager like this Alexander Britton guy, total tool bag if you ask me, he can open up this manager view. This shows all the records of check-in and check-out times and the names and employee ID numbers of everyone. And this could wind up going back very long ways, so there is a way to filter it, but for this it's just demonstrating that it can do it. That is the default view. You can view overtime, which is all the employees whose hours exceed 40 in the last 7 days. Here's everyone's hours in the last week. Export CSV says you can't do that, you're not allowed. And if we want to add a new employee, we've got I don't know, Mike Wazowski, and he's going to be an admin. We'll do a new admin, make that true. And right now he's not on here. We go all the way down to Sharon Peters, add employee. We go down here, Mike Wazowski is an admin, added to the thing. His number's 109. If I go close, and I go to 109, I check in successful. So I can now use this employee. But if I go like 110 and I go to check in, employee ID not found or is inactive. If I try to check out with my number, should type in correctly, employee is not currently checked in. But we can check out Mike Wazowski there. And then we can also look at the admin view. So the save changes button is here. This has been this is where I kind of got stuck. I tried to work past this point, but I started breaking my program because if I was going to do this right, I would have had to structure things a bit differently. But the whole goal was to allow the admin to come in here and change values in the table. Like the admin has, you know, all powerful access to the table. But if I do this, you know, I try to update his checkout time and I go save changes, it gives this error because this data grid view is made from multiple tables. It's from an inner join because it's the checkout time and check-in time and employee ID number from the activity log, but it's also the first and last name from the employee. I could have just removed the first and last name and then left the employee roster here for them to compare, but yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, the export CSV is possible as an admin. I've got export data here, save it there, and I can even open this up right now. And you can see that this is all the way down to Mike Wazowski. This is all of the data from that grid view in a CSV format. And then if I go to view all hours weekly and I do the same thing, then basically you will see that it is now that. So it's a good way to export the data quickly from the grid view. The add employee, all this stuff works great. It's just that dang inner join that changes the way the program saves the data. As you can see from the diagnostics tools, the performance really shoots up when we start doing the admin stuff. So when we start trying to save and to export and all that, that's when the performance really jumps up. Everything before that's not too bad. The code itself, we've got 3 classes. Employee, very straightforward. The properties match the columns in the database, so the class is basically like a structure for the database entry. These getters don't matter, they don't do anything. I don't know why they're even there still. The manager inherits from the employee class, and that means when it is made, the constructor will automatically default the value for the property of status to manager, and then the same thing happens for admin. But there's an interface here called export data. This is for the export data button, the export to CSV, and the admin class is the only one that inherits from that interface. So it has to implement the export data method, which right here just takes a string builder, puts together the first column headers. So this grabs the names of the columns that go in that first row of the CSV. Then it goes through each row and then each cell and puts together a string of comma separated values. Since it's putting together a string, it has to account for any forward slashes that are in the string, because those would mess up formatting for the string builder, and then also has to account for any values inside the cells that could have commas in them, and then removes them, and then just puts them all together with commas in between, except for behind the very last entry. The form manager CS, that's the design. Give me the big, there we go. This is where all the real magic happens, I guess. Connection string connects to the database. It's just location of the database. The logged in user status, whether it's manager, admin, or regular, is passed into the manager form. That's how it knows whether to show that button for an admin or allow the export to CSV for an admin. And then the data adapter and the data table, this is just how data gets taken from the database and then used through an adapter and put into a data table, which can then be represented in the data grid view. So that's just how it goes from database to being seen on the UI. And if you look at all these functions, they all pretty much do the same thing. We're going to resize the cells to fit the data. We're going to label the headers. Other than that, most of the stuff happens here. There's a query. The adapter is created. The data table's created. The adapter fills the data table with the data that it returns from the SQL query, and then the data grid view is then populated with the data from the table. So it goes from the database to the table to the grid view. That's how pretty much all these work. The queries are a little different. The employee list right here just grabs everything from the employees, puts it together in the adapter, puts it together in the data table, populates the grid view. Overtime view does the same thing, but it calculates the difference in minutes over the last 7 days, divides it by 60, getting hours. If it's over 40, it adds that entry into the grid view. Weekly hours does the same thing, but just compiles all of the hours for each employee ID number and then puts all of those in the grid view. The buttons here all pretty much do what you can expect. Most of them are checking for inputs, making sure it's valid, making sure there's actually, values in these like the add new employee, make sure it's all correct. The overtime click and the button weekly hours, all these just call those functions that bring that data into the grid view. The export CSV one's pretty cool because it has these save file dialogues, which is how it brings up the window to show you where it's going to save the file. And basically, as long as you've typed something in there, so if the save file dialog file name is not empty, as long as the file has a name, sure, proceed with export. Thanks, autocorrect. But it creates an instance of the admin class, because even though there's admin status on the database items, that doesn't mean they are an admin object in the C# program. So it has to create a new admin object here, and then it basically just gets another data table and exports it through that method that's implemented in the admin class, and then just saves it through that file to the direct file path location. So yeah, that's my project.